Hey guys, the Hertz here giving you another chapter of One Piece. Today's chapter is One Piece 706. And I wouldn't say a lot goes on in this chapter. It's kind of like another kind of setup. Admittedly, I wish more went on in this chapter, but I'll get to that later. So, first of all, I'm going to start off with Bartolomeo. And I don't really understand why this guy was kind of why we weren't shown a clear image of him at last chapter, because I don't see how. I think that only really works when it's kind of someone we know or we've seen and he's being reintroduced. So like it would have worked better for Bellamy. I feel it would have worked a lot better for Bellamy if he was blacked out, we didn't see him, and then later on Bellamy appears. It's like, oh, it's this guy, we thought he was dead. He's a very unique, well, he's very different, a very different character from what we see normally in One Piece. His entire kind of aura, his kind of personality, his clothing, his visual appearance gives this kind of offensive, rebellious kind of appearance, a lot of punk rock kind of undertones. He's got kind of these tribal kind of tattoos on his eye, underneath his eyes, these very elongated teeth, canine teeth that jut out from the top of his teeth and come out the sides. Very flamboyant hairstyle, and his manner as well is very offensive, which I'll get onto in a bit. But he apparently made a mark on Meteor. I don't know what Meteor is. It seems to be a place in the Grand Line, because the commentator says he made a mark on Meteor before coming to the New World. So I assume it's got to be in the Grand Line, because I doubt it would have been in any of the four seas: East, West, South, West, Blue. Also, one thing that I find really interesting is he's a supernova. I don't really understand what that means in this context. I thought supernova was just a delegation to rookies in Luffy's particular generation that had over 100 million before coming to the New World. So maybe it's his generation of supernova. Now he comes out of the waiting rooms, and he's presented in front of the crowd, and he's really offensive. He's really rebellious. He's like, suck my dick, I hate you, you're gonna die. And what happens is the people, they're like, fuck you, man, just like kiss my ass, and they just don't like him. And he throws this kind of baseball, this black baseball, at them, and it lands in their vicinity, and they start scrambling out of the way. Oh my god, it's a bomb! They're getting all stressed out, shitting themselves, and then nothing happens. And then Bartolomeo's like, you guys disgust the fuck out of me. And it's obvious he was testing their metal, if they were all bark instead of bite. And then after a second, the baseball makes a big boom sound, like the sound of a detonation of an explosion. And I think that shows his personality. He doesn't like people. He doesn't like innocents. He doesn't like people who he considers weak, who have a lot of bark but don't have a lot of bite. And that's why I think he guns down innocent civilians, because he considers them weak. I think he thinks they're like cattle, and they're just in the way. They're breathing this. They're a waste of space, waste of air, and it really shows. And he's called the cannibal. I don't know what that means, but he's considered the worst of pirates. They apparently on some list on pirates they wish were gone. He's at the top, And it's interesting. I've never seen, you know, this is. I mean, in the world of One Piece, he is very antagonistic, and I really like that. I really do like the fact that I'm seeing different character types, not the same character types over and over again. And I'm interested to see what kind of influence he has on the dynamic of the Dressrosa arc. So the next point is the next stage where they're starting to talk about Bellamy, and they're talking about Doflamingo as the king. I'm not sure if that's figurative or that's literal, but I don't know. I mean, they said he was royalty, and I thought that was because he was one of the 7 warlords. That's why he had royal status. But now he's a king of Dressrosa. Is Dressrosa a monarch? Is it a kingdom? I didn't. You know, it's really interesting to see where these pirates come from. I mean, Doflamingo didn't come off as a king, but at the same time he does have this kind of I'm royalty, I don't give a shit. But he doesn't seem like as extreme as like the Tenryubito. So yeah, but then you've got Bellamy, and apparently he brought back a pillar of gold, an actual pillar of gold. I'm guessing as an apology to Doflamingo for sullying the Don Quixote name during his fight with Luffy. And they call him the murderous bomb of Dressrosa, and I think that's got something to do with his his devil fruit ability, which allows him to, from what we can tell so far, allows him to form springs in his legs, which allows him to move at tremendous speeds, almost instantly. I guess you could say it's like a pre-step to Saru. And the more he bounces off things, the greater his momentum. So maybe he just does something where he stores a lot of momentum, hits the ground, and it's like an explosion or something. Or maybe he can make springs in his arms, and he can just boost up his momentum into his potential energy into his arms, and then they kind of explode out like bombs. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how he's developed, because before he used to be all bark, no bite. So it will be interesting to see how much he bites now, especially in the New World. You need to be some serious shit to be considered a candidate for the Don Quixote family. So we get to the part where Luffy is essentially talking with he's looking over the Group A group that was that fought Jesus Burgess and got fucked right up. I mean, there's this one guy in a stretcher, and he's screaming at the memory of what Jesus did to him. I found that was really, really cool. And I wonder if there's going to be a similar impact when Lucy gets involved. I really want to see what will happen. I really want to see how tough these guys are. And I really want to see Luffy start being pushed, because so far in this New World he hasn't really been pushed. So I really want to see him get pushed. I really want to see him go all out. So I hope this tournament does that, especially if he fights Jesus Burgess. But I kind of doubt that will happen. I think a lot of things in One Piece don't go according to plan. Bellamy is not deceived by Luffy's appearance. He can recognize that Lucy is Luffy, and he says, "You know what, Luffy? I know who you are. I'm sure you know who I am." And he's like, "You're some guy I know." He gets his name wrong, and Bellamy. He's not angry. He's like, "It's Bellamy." And he basically says, "You know, I've changed since we last met. I'm not as arrogant as I used to be. I'm now completely devoted to Don Quixote. I was before, but now I'm not all talk. I'm really meant to put my words into action and I went to Skypiea, which is really interesting considering he said he didn't believe in Skypiea. He thought it was just a mistake until I guess Luffy rang that bell, and then he went to Skypiea and he lost a lot of his, I'm guessing, his crewmates along the way or there, and he brought back, I'm pretty sure this pillar of gold is one of the things he brought back, and maybe the scar he got on the left side of his face he got from the Shandians or the Skypians, and not from his punishment from Doflamingo. And Bellamy's bounty has gone way up. Bellamy's bounty before was 55 million. Yeah, it was 55 million. So, and now it's 195 million, which you know, most people will say like, yeah, compared to Luffy, that's nothing. But to me, I mean, it's a pretty high bounty. Regardless, anything over 100 million means you're pretty big shit. In fact, isn't his bounty higher than Zoro's? Now that I think about it. So, and we all know that bounty is not a clear indication of how powerful someone is. So he could be more powerful than his bounty says. So I am really interested to see how his strength has developed, and I think we'll see it in next chapter. Though some people say the next chapter is going to be out this weekend, or it will be out in 2 weeks. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But along with his bounty increase, from his conversation, I can tell he's matured. You know, he's barely laughing. He's calm. He's goal orientated now. Before he was just about making his image more than it was, but now he's just about doing his duty to the Don Quixote family, to Doflamingo, and he's not gonna laugh at Luffy's dreams anymore. And it's really, really cool to see characters come back and having matured, having developed into more interesting and dynamic characters. So it's gonna be interesting to see how his goals and his will reflect his strength in these coming fights. So Luffy's in C block. I mean, the next part is basically just a compilation of the different blocks, and Luffy's in block C. He's in block C. Rebecca and Cavendish is in block D. I personally don't see how Cavendish will lose, but then saying that Rebecca is a gladiator, so she wouldn't really have a bounty, so that again, you don't really know how she stacks up. So I don't really know how Cavendish stacks up either. So he might have a really high bounty, but so did Karibo, and look what happened to him. Bellamy, the Gamma, and Bartolomeo are in B block. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Bellamy and Bartolomeo stand up against each other, and who will come out on top. I mean, Bellamy does have the higher bounty, but Bartolomeo is a supernova and he is a rookie, and he did kick Maynard's ass. But during this fight, the Gamma turns he makes his alliance, he puts his alliance into action, and basically a lot of the contestants start fighting in a group, and the Gamma pretty much says, we got to take the guy with the highest bounty out, and that's Bellamy. And I think that's a mistake. I think Bartolomeo is probably the more dangerous one. So it's going to be interesting to see how the battle plays out. I personally think the Gamma and his group are going to be taken out, but you know, it's One Piece. Anything could happen. Anything. I really hope Oda does not jump to the other Straw Hats. That would be really annoying. So overall, this gets a... what should I rate it? I mean, it was really short, but it was really You know, it wasn't like last chapter where it left me was leaving. It left me with, oh, I want to know more. I want to see more. At this point, my blood is settled. It's ready now. I'm ready now, and any more delay and it's going to be a bit annoying, to be honest. So I'm going to give this chapter a... I've waited long enough. Now it's time to get fucking ready. Out of 10. So that was Romeo Hurts today, with this week's chapter of One Piece 706. Hopefully the next one will be out soon, and of course Naruto One Piece review. See you guys later.